NFL, being a player in that league may be the most pressure of any sports occupation. Well, that means a lot of players have a lot to prove. Let's talk about the 5 players that have the most to prove, in my mind, this upcoming season. At number 5, it is Jalen Hurts. Why Jalen Hurts? Well, yes, he's been paid, but it's not just about him being paid. It's about how great is he actually going to be for the foreseeable future. We know he had a great year, second-team All-Pro. As we all say, that is hard to do. But we haven't seen him be elite consistently, so I'm ready for him to prove that. At number 4, Lamar Jackson. Come on, Lamar, you were a unanimous MVP, but 2019 was a long time ago. That was pre-COVID, just to help date that. So is Lamar Jackson going to be able to revert back to superstar action Jackson? But at number 3, many might argue this player has the most to prove. Tua Tagovailoa. He has to prove that he can stay healthy. He also has to prove that the Dolphins can trust him to be their quarterback for the next 5, for the next 10 years. At number 2, Josh Allen. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how does Josh Allen have something to prove? Well, he's going into year 6, and he needs to continue to separate himself from the rest of the pack as it pertains to being able to get to a Super Bowl and hopefully, eventually, maybe, just maybe, win one. At number 1, probably a unanimous answer, it's Russell Wilson. You know what the Broncos gave up for Russell Wilson, but more importantly, now the head coach and Sean Payton has arrived in Denver. Is Russell Wilson still capable of being that first ballot Hall of Fame talent we know him to be? As we get to the desk, there's one name in particular, Shady. There's one name in particular, Joy, that I am most fascinated by. The name is Josh Allen. We know what Russell Wilson has to prove. There's a lot of uniformity around that. We know to some degree what Lamar Jackson has to prove, a lot of uniformity around that. But Joy, when I think about Josh Allen, I think about this. You never want somebody younger than you to become more talented or as talented as you. You always want to stay above those that are in your age range and above those that you were older than. But Herbert's coming. Trevor Lawrence coming. Jalen Hurts coming. Tua Tagovailoa coming. All these dudes are younger than Josh Allen. For me, Josh Allen this year has to prove he's capable of getting to a Super Bowl. I know he's good. I know he's MVP caliber good. He didn't win MVP. Aaron Rodgers won it 2 years ago. He was second. But I know he's good. I'm ready for him to prove he is Super Bowl good, because there's a difference. A difference between being a really good player, a great player, and a Super Bowl player. Phillip Rivers was a really, really good player. But there's a difference between Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning. There's levels to this. I want to see Josh Allen supersede and get to that next level. Joy, what does Josh Allen need to prove to you this year?
I'm going to keep saying this probably all offseason, but I feel like we are all kind of looking at jumping off the Bills bandwagon maybe a little early.
Fair.
Because we have these expectations of them every single year. Like, they're Super Bowl contenders. They're going to be in the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen's going to win MVP. And they're just not quite there. But then you look at what Josh Allen has done, and I'm like, man, he's really good.
Really good.
He's like been a Pro Bowler twice, an All-Pro. He's the first quarterback in NFL history with 3 career seasons of at least 30 touchdown passes and 5 rushing touchdowns. We know what he looks like on the field. He's passed Marino for the most touchdowns by any player in his first 5 seasons in NFL history. It's pretty good. Dan Marino's pretty good. I mean, he's played in 8 playoff games, an AFC Championship game. He's really young still. It's just we've been talking about him a lot. I think really what he needs to prove is consistency in the postseason. Because I can't jump to they need to make it to a Super Bowl this year, especially for the AFC. And I don't want to start grading it on a curve too much, because we should expect greatness from greats.
Of course.
But the AFC is going to be very, very hard. One of these teams, Bengals, Bills, Chiefs, is not going to be in the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
Maybe a combination of all of them, depending on how it goes to the end of the season. So it's going to be really difficult to judge the AFC, the way that it's trended with quarterbacks and offenses. I think what I focus on with Josh Allen is his consistency. In 4 of Allen's 8 playoff games, he's had a passer rating of under 90. He has had games where it's like,
What's going on?
what's going on? What are you doing? Who is this? Like, he's just been kidnapped and replaced by some pod person. That is really what I think he needs to improve on, is because we know what he's capable of. If he can keep that kind of consistency in those big games, it's going to be very hard to stop them.
Shady, here's my issue, though, and you hear it a lot often, cream rises to the top. I get the AFC is competitive, but outside of Aaron Rodgers being old, it's going to be competitive for the next 5 years. Joe Burrow's young, Patrick Mahomes is young. Justin Herbert's young. Trevor Lawrence is young. Tua Tagovailoa is young. Deshaun Watson's young. Josh Allen is young. AFC is not getting any easier.
Lamar.
Lamar Jackson.
Come on.
Lamar, I just named that's 8 people. That's eight of them.
Yes,
and that's not even counting the quarterbacks that are in college, which in 2 years from now we're going to be like, man, Caleb Williams really good too. So I think Josh Allen has to get what is his while he can still get it. What does he have to prove to you? He's your former teammate.
For the record, though, it's 2:06, June 6th on a Tuesday. I want you to mark this down because she basically gave a little love. Because you know Joy's tough. If you don't get to certain playoff games or the Super Bowl, it's like, we throwing them away. So hold up. So when it comes to A-Rod, we're going to keep that on the track. Am I tripping? All right.
June 6th. So let me sign it.
So anyway, on a serious note, I think Josh has to prove just that he's legit, right? When I say he's legit, I think he's a great player. But every year, when you look at who's going to win the Super Bowl, it's the Bills. This is Vegas. This is the favorites. Who's going to win MVP? It's Josh Allen every year. So I think it's more of making sure that he's legit. We like Joey read off all them stats. My brother be balling. I think Josh is a top quarterback. But now it's time to show it. Every year they get so close. I think that if we even look at a guy like Joe Burrow, the reason why he's jumped up so fast is because, we think he's talented. Got a good team, but it's where he's taking his team, right? Yeah. So when we look at Josh, we think he's a great player. The talent part is one, but we got to see him actually go out there and lead his team to the AFC Championship games and win them or go to the Super Bowl. Just to get there. I mean, I think that's when you measuring, I think the quarterbacks, that's one of the biggest things you measure.
Slick, you know what's fascinating? When I think about the best quarterbacks of the last 5 or 10 years, that list, you can start to decline down that list rapidly. It wasn't that long ago, 2019, 2020, Russell Wilson was a top 3 quarterback. Y'all remember we would go Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, right? Drew Brees was getting older, Tom Brady. We were like, he's grandfathered into the top 5 forever. But Russell Wilson was a top 5 quarterback. Now Russell Wilson's not even in the top 15, and he's not old. Well, he's not even in the top 10, excuse me. And he's not old.
I was in the top 15.
Top 10. Slip of the tongue.
Right. It is,
But I guess see how this season goes for us.
Yes, right.
So
we get too crazy.
I say that to say Josh Allen was unanimously in the top 3 last year.
Yeah.
Unanimously. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Burrow, Allen.
Right.
It was unanimous.
Right.
But now, Mahomes, you got to say Hurts. Got to say Burrow.
Yeah.
Hey, some people saying Herbert. Now, like, he's even taken a step back at minimum in perception. Maybe not in reality, at minimum in perception. Slick, that's why, to me, there's a lot at stake. What's he have to prove to you?
I agree with that, especially when you come up with, and I would just leave it at Burrow and Mahomes in the AFC. Those are the guys that we've heard him most often compared to and is in the mix with, right? So we're comparing him to them. And to me, what he has to do is be more consistently good, if not great. He's demonstrated how great he can be. But he had 3 games last year where he threw for less than 200 yards. He had 3 games where he completed barely 50% of his passes. His drop-off games are far greater than the games that Mahomes and Burrow have. They may not be great, but they're always good. Yeah. And it's an element when we get to the postseason. I don't know about you guys, but for me, makes me a little bit nervous in terms of which Josh Allen is going to show up. Is it going to be the supersized Josh Allen, or is it going to be the guy where it's like he throws a couple picks and now he's trying to force things and things go haywire? To me, that's where he has to get better, and that would change the dynamic of where he sits. It's hard for me to say Super Bowl or bust because so much has to do with the entire team, right? But he's an important element to that, and I think his erratic levels is what keeps me from putting him in the Mahomes-Burrow category at this point.
And we're going to talk about Aaron later on in the show, so I'll let you know my answer to that. We're going to get to that later. I mean, in the divisional round against the Bengals, he had a playoff-low 68 passer rating and completed 59% of his passes. It is the erratic part of his play, particularly in the postseason, that is concerning. We know what he's going to do in the regular season. We know the numbers that he's going to put up. We know how dynamic of a player he is, how tough of a player he is. he's a star. You can see it. It's just a matter of putting it together in the games that matter most. And I think he will. I'm not ready to completely write the Bills off just yet. They've had the #1 total defense in the Josh Allen era, the top 2 scoring defense in 3 of the last 4 seasons. So they are a complete team. They're a well-coached team. They're a good culture. And he's a great player. He just needs to be the factor for them in the postseason. If he plays at his highest level when it matters most, they will win. The problem is, like Skip said, the fall off is just so dramatic that they aren't able to overcome it, even though they're a great, solid team.
My fear is this, and I like the parallel in sports oftentimes because it makes more sense for the viewer. Allen Iverson probably didn't realize that when he went to the Super Bowl, I believe it was in year 6, that was going to be like his last best chance. NBA Finals. Carmelo Anthony probably didn't realize when he went to the Western Conference Finals, I believe it was in year 7 with the Nuggets, that was going to be as close as he was ever going to get. When you're young, you think you have forever. I'm young. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go again. But you might not. And so, Joy, my frustration is with Josh Allen, it's like, Mahomes is going to be there. Eventually, you got to find a way to go get one. Burrow did. At least Burrow went to one. I don't mean go get one as in win, but at least, show up to the dance. Josh Allen is not old by any metric.
No, he's still young.
He's still young. But I'm looking like people coming. Trevor Lawrence coming. Herbert coming. Tua coming.
And I hear that. But let's now, I'm not being biased. I'm just being honest. Let's put some more respect on Josh Allen, though.
Okay.
You keep throwing out Trevor Lawrence. He's a good player. Really, really good system, right? Good player. Tua, good system, he's a good quarterback, right? Josh Allen, he's the main focal guy. He winning them games. He's him. Let's put that respect on it. I think he's young enough where he has some time to grow, to go out there and go to the Super Bowl or AFC conference game and win them. He has time to get that, and I do think that for his resume, right, for his name, for his legacy, he has to go out there and do that, right? That has to happen. For us to keep saying he's one of the best players in the league, which he is, that's the other part of it he has to go conquer. And it takes a player's time. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a great player, right? It took him some time. He got one championship for, 20-some years almost? So it takes time for players to go out there and win these games.
Let me ask you this. Are you at all, because you know the Bills organization well, you played there, All-Pro there, All-Pro Bowler there.
Organization.
You know it well. Leslie Frazier, defensive coordinator, phenomenal defensive mind, is no longer there.
He's gone.
Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, starting safeties. I think best tandem in football at safety. They're getting older.
For sure. One of them.
Older. You know they had to lose Tremaine Edmonds, I believe, not Terrell Edmonds. His brother. They had to lose Tremaine this year. He's
Chicago.
Eventually, that talent is not going to be as talented as it has been. The Bills have had a top 2 defense. The Bills have had a young in his prime Stephon Diggs, who I believe is still in his prime. But there comes a point where Josh Allen's roster is not going to be any better than it has already been. Are you concerned that that point is starting to?
I'm not concerned because I think, and I've seen Josh Allen, I know how good he really is. Not from just watching him on tape, but actually being in the locker room with him. I know the type of hard work he puts in, sort of like Jalen Hurts. He puts that type of work in. And I do think it will get harder, but I think he'll get even better. Right? I think he hasn't hit his ceiling yet, and he'll be a lot better. I think it's all on him.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.